My name is Michelle. I am in Idaho and I am 34 this month. Anyway, I've had HS since I was 12 and it sucked. HS has been a part of my life forever, and I was only diagnosed 2 years ago now. So I was always embarrassed and didn't know what the heck was going on. Sucks. Some things I found out is that it's somewhat genetic. My cousin and her brother have it, so I'm not alone in my family, but it still sucks, and I worry about my children having HS.
Hey guys, my name's Kennedy. I'm a junior at UCF and I'm 20 years old, and I think I was like a freshman in high school around that time. 14 sounds about right for that age. And I was very athletic in high school. I was captain of volleyball and my soccer teams, as well as I partook in our basketball and cheerleading teams, and I emceed the guys' games. So I was very active and busy and just constantly moving in high school, which took a toll on my HS. Because HS, if anything flares or it becomes inflamed, it's over. Like, it's so painful. So, like, constantly moving and busy and never really having an off moment, it was really painful for me. But I never let that, like, get the best of me, and I never let HS consume my life. Like, I never skipped a game or skipped out on a practice or skipped out on a tournament on the weekend because I was in pain. I just popped some ibuprofen or popped my prescription pain meds if I needed them, if it was that bad. And I just, like, persevered through it because I can't let this get the best of me. It's not something I can help. It's not something I can get rid of. It's not something I can stop. It's not something that's going to end anytime soon for me. So I had to have the best mindset that I could, that, like, hey, I'm stuck with this. How am I going to go around this? How am I going to still live my life? And I did. Like, I'm in college on a sports scholarship. But a couple things I want people to know about this disease is, like, it's not a disability for some of us. Some of us have it bad. I only have stage 1, maybe stage 2. You really can't even tell. The average doctor can't really tell that, hey, this is HS. You really can't tell that on me, but it still gets very, very painful when it does get bad. But we don't want you to, like, look down at us. We don't want you to think we have, like, some sort of disability, because we don't. This is just something we have, that our body's like, hey, we don't want to be nice to you right now, so we're going to put you in pain. That's about it. We can still do what you guys do. It just might take a little extra time, or like a different time and place for us to do it, because we might have an active flare at the moment and it's super painful. But it's not a disability. We don't want to be treated differently, and we don't want to be looked down upon because we can't help our bodies work. It's like cancer, depression, or anxiety. You can't really help that. All you can really do is, like, take medication, change your environment, change your surroundings, and just hope for the best. And that's what I've been doing since I got diagnosed 6 years ago, and I'm still going strong. Like, I haven't let it get the best of me. I'm not laying in bed all day, although sometimes I do, but that's to be expected. We're teenagers.
I'm currently 22 years old and 5.5 months pregnant. Growing up with HS was very strange. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was something wrong hygienically. I played sports. I played softball, so I would take 3 showers a day and still no improvements on the bumps or the sores and my underarms or under my breast and other places. It didn't make sense to me. So when I was about in high school, I showed my parents the ones under my arms, and it was at a level 1, maybe a level 2 at the time. It wasn't so dramatic or bad yet. And they thought it was ingrown hairs that were strange, that, you know, maybe I shaved in the wrong direction, my underarms, and they didn't think much of it. But I also didn't tell them I've had that for years. So they never thought much of it. They thought they were strange. They didn't know what it was. It got a little worse when I was about 18 or 19. Stress, weight gain, and hormones can affect HS and make it worse. And I guess at that time I was, in college, gaining weight, I was older, I wasn't playing sports anymore, and so it started flaring up more. And it had an impact, and that's when it got worse. So finally I had the courage to tell my parents, and we went to go see specialists and doctors. And basically, it's a skin condition that not many people know about. They don't know what causes it. They know what makes it worse, but they don't know if it's hereditary. They don't know much information. There's no cure. There's things that can help with your lifestyle, but there's really no cure. So now I'm currently pregnant, and it has an effect because, again, weight, hormones, and stress affect it, and you experience all those things during pregnancy. The first 2 months of my pregnancy, I had absolutely no flare-ups. That hasn't happened in years, where I had no bumps, no sores, none at all. And that was rare, so that was exciting. And then around 3 to 4 months, that's when it started getting bad. It's not at the worst it's been, but it's starting to flare up again. I hear, and I've done research, that once you deliver the baby and once it's postpartum, that's when the flare-ups, excuse me, go really, really bad. It's basically just the hormones and the stress, and it takes an entire toll on your body. Sometimes it goes back to how it used to be, where it wasn't as bad. Sometimes it just doesn't go back at all, and you're in the level 3 area, and it's awful. My flare-ups consist of the big bumps under my arms, under my breast, things like that. They can itch. It's very strange. They can itch, but they can also be very tender to the touch, or when I have like my arms down. And I wake up in the middle of the night because they're itchy, and I scratch them, but I don't realize it because I'm half asleep. And then I wake up and my underarms are bleeding. So that's strange. It's a very painful disease. Doesn't look like there's much of a cure, trying to be researched or anything like that. So it's just something a lot of people deal with. There are support groups on Facebook. So it's interesting to get how they take care of their flare-ups and get their advice, and that's helpful, someone else going through it, because it's a very uncommon disease, so not many people know about it. It's also very embarrassing, so to have like that group to just get advice and talk about it, and people that understand it, it's very helpful. And that's about it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kaylin. I am 33 years old, and I have had HS since I was 15. So for 18 years, I've been living with this. And I'd love to share with you some of my story, something that I feel is a story of hope and leading to healing. Some boils that were HS. Those were under my breast, and I went to a dermatologist, and I'm not sure if I got what diagnosis I had. I remember him saying that it was cystic acne, and that it was caused by too much oil production, and so he put me on antibiotics and birth control hormones, and I was on those for a while, like maybe a year or two, until I learned in biology class the effects of antibiotics. And since I wasn't really having any improvement, I quit the antibiotics and stayed on birth control, and still really not a whole lot of change. Something that I just lived with. It didn't really affect me. It was annoying, but other than that, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. 5 years later or so, it's about 2021, I had flares that were starting in a new location in my groin area. So same thing, I was annoyed, but not enough to really want to pursue the treatment that the dermatologist recommended. Since then, I had a handful of flares that were really large and painful, in my armpit. So probably maybe 4 or 5 times since then. And when those would happen, I would make an appointment at a dermatologist, not one I was seeing regularly. They would inject it with a steroid, give me antibiotics for the anti-inflammatory properties, and it would get better. And so about 5 years ago, I was having one of those injected with steroid, and the dermatologist said, oh, you have Hidradenitis suppurativa. So that was the first time I had a name for it, and she brought up the long-term antibiotics or Accutane, neither of which I was really that interested in. I read that HS was an autoimmune disorder, and I had no idea. I'd never been told that. I mean, again, I wasn't really pursuing a whole lot of treatment, but that was new to me. I also at the time was considering surgery for improvement of the pilonidal cyst. I shouldn't say improvement, for treatment of it, hoping that it would never return. My OBGYN recommended removal surgery actually while I had it, and at the time I didn't pursue it, and then I considered, I went and had an appointment and a consult with the doctor for it, and it's like 2 weeks you can't even sit down. He explained what it was, what the surgery would entail, and it was just way too much for a mama with a new baby. I knew that I was just gonna take my chances of it flaring up again and of dealing with it, because really it had responded to that treatment, and it just didn't feel right. It seemed like, wow, I'm going through this big deal. To me, that's a big deal to go through that surgery, just for something that may or may not bother me again. One thing that caught my eye that was like glaringly obvious to me every time I would read that someone would say, oh, I did AIP, I'm in remission. I was like, what is this? I had no idea. And it was every single person who shared they were doing AIP either said they were in remission or that they were on their way there and they had had significant improvement. So that opened up this whole new path to learning what that was. So AIP is the autoimmune protocol diet, and I spent probably a month or two reading about this and learning what is this about. And so what I learned is that it is a diet based off of a paleo diet that is recommended for people with autoimmune disorders, and it removes foods from the diet that are pro-inflammatory and that are potential triggers for people with autoimmune disorders like HS. And so that's not to say that there might be something that triggers someone that doesn't trigger someone else that might be considered safe. It's just that for the most part, removing these foods will help the body to get into remission for whatever you have. And I also read a lot of books about it. I read The Hidden Plague, which is specific to HS, about using diet to improve the disorder. And I also read a lot of information from the paleomom.com, which is Sarah Ballantyne, and she also has a lot of books out there. And so I really appreciated all that information. I felt especially that Sarah Ballantyne's information shared the science behind it and was explaining the why behind, when you eat this food, this is what's going on in your body, this is what's going on in your gut, and then this is what is happening to cause that inflammatory response, to cause that response in your body that is the autoimmune response, and how can food help to reverse that and help to improve your disorder. So this was actually kind of amazing to me. It was overwhelming to me in a good way, as well as, I mean, to be honest, there's some sadness to the fact that I don't eat certain things, and I probably won't for a long time. But I wanted to go all in. I wanted to be able to improve this condition for myself, as well as to have an answer that didn't have any side effects.